Hey guys, it's Jordan with National Speed, and today we're settling two of the biggest questions in C8 Corvette naturally aspirated performance. 1. Which modifications actually move the needle? And 2. How much power can you really make naturally aspirated while preserving stock-like drivability? Now, this C8 was taken up to 550 horsepower at the rear wheels, gaining nearly 120 horsepower, all naturally aspirated with literal stock-like drivability. And every single modification was installed, tuned, and dyno tested back-to-back, so you can see exactly what each one brings to the table. So with that all said, here's how this video is structured. We'll start with a baseline dyno pull to establish our true starting point for horsepower and torque. Then we'll cover each modification one at a time. Intake, headers, high-flow catalytic converters, exhaust system, ported intake manifold and throttle body, camshaft, and flex fuel. We'll also cover flex fuel in detail, showing the performance benefit from 93 octane to full E85. And to remove any guesswork, we'll do that with full bolt-ons on a stock engine, and then again after adding our performance camshaft. Now, our subject for this video is Hunter's gorgeous rapid blue 2025 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. When Hunter reached out, the car was already running 1130s in the quarter mile with nothing more than a CORSA intake installed, otherwise completely stock. That's impressive on its own, especially considering that those runs were made on an unprepped surface. And for this round of work, his goal was clear: consistent 10-second quarter mile passes, daily driver reliability, full flex fuel capability, and yes, that choppy cam idle that everyone loves. But the most important requirement, literal stock-like drivability. Not close, literally stock-like. And as you're about to see, with the right combination of parts and calibration, that goal is absolutely achievable. And since we've got a lot to unpack in this video, let's get right into it. First up, we baseline the car exactly as it sits to establish our true starting point for horsepower and torque. As expected, baseline comes in at 427 wheel horsepower and 426 pound-feet of torque. Next, the Global B ECU is removed and sent out for unlocking by our friends at HP Tuners. A few days later, the unlocked ECU is received, reinstalled, and now we're ready to move forward. With the car back on the dyno, Vlad dials it in via HP Tuners. After tuning, output increases to 437 wheel horsepower and 426 pound-feet of torque. That's peak gains of 9.66 wheel horsepower and 0.26 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 14.68 wheel horsepower and 12.13 pound-feet of torque. Now, being totally real with you, based on these results, we don't believe that custom tuning is a great return on investment with an intake only. At the time this video is recorded, once you factor in the cost of the ECU unlock, licensing, and custom tuning, it just doesn't make sense unless you're doing flex fuel at the same time. So if you're planning on running just an intake for now, we recommend you save your money and stay on the stock calibration until you're ready to move to the next stage. But regardless, following our consistent stage roadmap and also as a reference point in this video, this combination will represent our stage 1 naturally aspirated package. With that, the car heads into the shop for John to install the next stage of modifications. Stainless Works long tube headers, Stainless Works mid pipes with EPA compliant G-Sport by Jesse high flow catalytic converters, and the optional AWE tuning touring exhaust system. To gain access, the rear bumper is removed and the factory components are pulled. When installing the headers, we use OEM GM exhaust manifold gaskets to ensure leak-free operation for the long haul. And unlike front-engine GM LT-based vehicles, spark plug wire protection isn't a concern on the C8 due to their placement. Adding DEI protector boots can make sense for dedicated track use, but for most street-driven cars, we don't see the need. Now, it's important to point out that the headers and high-flow catalytic converters are really doing the heavy lifting here. While the AW Touring exhaust system sounds fantastic and reduces considerable weight over stock, there isn't a meaningful power increase compared to the factory C8 Performance exhaust. But let's be real, the sound alone is worth it. Yep, that'll get it done. With the installation complete, Vlad's straps are back down to the dyno. After optimizing the calibration, output increases to 448 wheel horsepower and 449 pound-feet of torque. Over baseline, that's peak gains of 21.01 wheel horsepower and 23.38 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 28.38 wheel horsepower and 30.57 pound-feet of torque. Then compared to stage 1, that's an additional 11.35 wheel horsepower with nearly identical maximum gains. And this combination represents our stage 2 naturally aspirated package, and this is where custom tuning really starts to make sense. Next, the car goes back into the shop for John to install the next stage of modifications. Watney Performance ported factory intake manifold, OEM GM LT5 95mm throttle body from the C8 Corvette ZR1, and a K-Tech throttle body adapter. Rather than simply bolting on a larger throttle body, this combination opens the intake manifold inlet to a matched 95mm diameter directly into the plenum. The result is far less restriction and more efficient airflow. And it's also worth noting that we keep core LT2 intake manifolds in stock so that this whole process is a bolt-on ordeal. During this round of work, John also installs the DSX Tuning flex fuel conversion. DSX authorizes only a small number of shops nationwide to sell, install, and tune flex fuel conversions for GM Global B vehicles, and we're proud to be one of them. The team at DSX Tuning are true innovators in this space, and their products are consistently top tier. With the installation complete, Vlad straps the car back down to the dyno. Now, to keep this comparison clean, we start with 93 octane in the tank for a direct comparison to stage 2. After optimizing the calibration, output increases to 452 wheel horsepower and 451 pound-feet of torque. Over baseline, that's peak gains of 25.15 wheel horsepower and 25.11 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 35.01 wheel horsepower and 36.61 pound-feet of torque. And compared to stage 2, that's peak gains of 4.14 wheel horsepower and 1.73 pound-feet of torque, and maximum gains of 9.59 wheel horsepower and 17.26 pound-feet of torque. So while peak horsepower gains are modest up top, torque increases significantly down low, right where you use it most. And this combination represents our stage 3 naturally aspirated package, which is essentially a full bolt-on setup. With 93 octane testing complete, Vlad switches the car over to E85. All right, let's take a look at the impact. Now we're talking. On E85, output jumps up to 475 wheel horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque. Over baseline, that's peak gains of 47.56 wheel horsepower and 49.46 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 55.06 wheel horsepower and 57.55 pound-feet of torque. And compared to 93 octane, that's peak gains of 22.41 wheel horsepower and 24.35 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 26.46 wheel horsepower. Needless to say, the flex fuel conversion absolutely carries its weight even on a stock engine. So why is it so effective? Well, E85 has an effective octane of around 105 R plus M divided by 2, giving you race gas-like knock resistance at a fraction of the cost. Beyond octane, E85 also provides a cooling effect, further suppressing detonation. This allows us to apply more ignition timing in the calibration, which has a direct and meaningful impact on performance. And of course, there's much more to the science behind this, but for the purposes of this video, that's what matters most. With stage 3 complete, the car heads back into the shop for John to install the next round of modifications. This includes our camshaft and AFM DOD delete package, paired with the Gwatney Performance CNC ported cylinder heads. Now, this camshaft package includes everything required to do the job correctly and reliably. Our NS1 camshaft by Cam Motion, Brian Tooley Racing phaser lockout, C5R timing chain, Brian Tooley Racing AFM DOD delete plugs, OEM GM LS7 lifters, Brian Tooley Racing valve springs and retainers, Brian Tooley Racing push rods, Brian Tooley Racing rocker arm trunnion bearing upgrade, ARP head bolts, and all the OEM GM gaskets, seals, one-time use fasteners, and proper fluids. For this project specifically, we're using our NS1 camshaft grind to meet one of Hunter's most important requirements, literal stock-like drivability. Now, while this camshaft does provide a very noticeable chop at idle, it's spec'd to deliver completely stock-like behavior. This means that we're intentionally leaving 25 to 30 horsepower on the table compared to our more aggressive camshaft grinds. But for customers who value uncompromised drivability over peak numbers, this is absolutely the right approach. Now, if you don't mind a little hot rod behavior at low speeds, there is considerably more power on the table with a more aggressive grind. It's simply a matter of choosing the right trade-off for how you actually use the car. And paired with the Gwatney Performance CNC ported cylinder heads, this is a beautifully balanced combination. And it's also worth noting that we keep core LT2 cylinder head castings in-house for all model years. This eliminates extended wait times for port work and allows this entire process to be a true bolt-on operation. With that, John drops the cradle and gets to work pulling the engine for disassembly. After in-depth cleaning and inspection, reassembly commences. Now, one question we get all the time is whether that 4-cylinder mode thing is eliminated when we do a camshaft. And the answer is absolutely. That system is what GM refers to as active fuel management, or AFM, or also displacement on demand, or DoD. And the failure-prone AFM DoD lifters are mechanically eliminated with this package, along with all the other supporting components. So, performance and fun factor aside, one of the biggest benefits to doing a camshaft in your C8 is long-term reliability. This package also includes the Brian Tooley Racing rocker arm trunnion bearing upgrade. While this isn't technically required, it's a no-brainer while we're there. The reason being is that the factory rocker arm uses needle bearings. Even in stock form, these bearings wear out over time, and this is accelerated with an aftermarket camshaft. So, switching from needle to an inner race bearing eliminates deflection and also quiets down the LT clackiness at idle, which is a nice byproduct. With the powertrain reassembled, John reunites it with the car. After adding the proper fluids and conducting a systems check, she's ready for the dyno. But first, let's hear that idle. Absolutely perfect. And with that, plaid straps are back down to the dyno, starting with 93 octane. With the calibration optimized, output jumps to 504 wheel horsepower and 474 pound-feet of torque. Over baseline, that's peak gains of 76.98 wheel horsepower and 47.57 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 86.46 wheel horsepower and 73.73 pound-feet of torque. And compared to stage 3 with 93 octane, which as a reminder is stock engine with full bolt-ons, that's peak gains of 51.83 wheel horsepower and 22.46 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 56.03 wheel horsepower and 47.76 pound-feet of torque. And this combination represents our stage 4 naturally aspirated package, which is essentially a heads cam full bolt-on setup. With 93 octane testing complete, Vlad switches the car back over to E85. So, does E85 have the same impact with an aftermarket camshaft? Yep, even better. On E85, output jumps to 531 wheel horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. Over baseline, that's peak gains of 104.35 wheel horsepower and 74.40 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 115.23 wheel horsepower and 98.20 pound-feet of torque. Compared to stage 3 with E85, that's peak gains of 56.79 wheel horsepower and 24.94 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 65.83 wheel horsepower and 56.20 pound-feet of torque. Then, compared to stage 4 with 93 octane, that's peak gains of 27.37 wheel horsepower and 26.83 pound-feet of torque, with maximum gains of 35.14 wheel horsepower and 31.91 pound-feet of torque. And just for fun, let's have a look at the dyno graph with the correction factor set to uncorrected. This will show us what the car is actually producing in these conditions without any correction factor applied. Yep, 550.53 wheel horsepower and 518.40 pound-feet of torque. Pretty strong. And the cool thing as a reminder is that this is all achieved with a camshaft grind that delivers absolute stock-like drivability. There's an extra 25 to 30 wheel horsepower with one of our more aggressive camshaft grinds, but again, with some drivability trade-off. And to demonstrate what we mean by absolute stock-like drivability, take a look for yourself.
Yeah, so one of the things we are really obsessive about with this camshaft is we wanted the drivability to be as close to stock as possible. Sure, we're leaving a little power on the table there, but we want to make it so that when you come off the brake, the car drives like stock, so that when you're in stop-and-go traffic, on the daily commute, it still has the exact same livability as a stock car, but you've got that nice cam chop right in the back. So check this out. We come right off the brake. Car starts creeping forward just like stock. No surging, no bumping. Give it a little gas. There we go. Shifts right into second gear. No bucking, no surging. But for the customers that are looking for absolutely as close to stock drivability as possible, this is it.
Well guys, there you have it. Hopefully this removes some of the guesswork from your C8 Corvette naturally aspirated modification roadmap, and also demonstrates just how much power you can make without compromising drivability. And if you want to see what this exact same package does with our more aggressive NS2 camshaft grind, then stay tuned. That's coming up soon with an extra twist. So if you're ready for this level of proven performance from your C8 Corvette, we're ready to help you get there. No matter where you're located in the entire United States, we're here to make the entire process easy, transparent, and fun from start to finish. Reach out today to learn more.